In some sense, everyone has a mentor, but that's not always a good thing.
You are a worthless, friendless, faggot-lipped little piece of shit whose mommy left daddy when she figured out he wasn't Eugene O'Neill, and who is now weeping and slobbering all over my drum set like a fucking 9-year-old girl. So for the final father-fucking time, say it louder! I'm upset!
There are no two better examples of this than 2014's Whiplash starring J.K. Simmons and Miles Teller, and 2024's The Apprentice starring Jeremy Strong and Sebastian Stan. Well, hold on. Before we start talking about the movies, and before we start talking about the characters, it's really important to talk about how these movies actually came to be. Whiplash is a classic indie success story. It was originally an 18-minute short film produced by Right of Way Films and Blumhouse Productions. After it was played at Sundance in 2013, investors flocked to the project and eventually funded $3.3 million, getting it produced by Bold Films. The movie was shot in 19 days. Eventually, it made $50 million worldwide. It is safe to say, I think it's not controversial to say, that this movie performed kinda okay. I thought it performed kinda well in the box office. The Apprentice, on the other hand, has a much more complicated production story. I wonder why that is. You know, it could do with the fact that it's a biopic of one of the most controversial figures in American history, which came out 3 weeks before Election Day. That probably has something to do with it. The film was actually announced in May of 2018, with Stan and Strong only joining the project 4 years later in 2022, and director Ali Abbasi joining in 2023. Both Paul Thomas Anderson and Clint Eastwood were offered this project, but turned it down for obvious reasons, seeing it as a business risk. Funding for this project wasn't so simple either. Former Washington Commanders owner Dan Snyder backed out of financing the movie because of creative differences. He was probably thinking it was going to look a lot like the Reagan movie that came out. I wonder if that movie had any bias in it. Probably not, right? Trump's former chief campaign spokesperson, Stephen Chang, said, quote, "This film should not see the light of day." That's how badly they didn't want this movie to be made. They even went as far as to file a cease and desist for the film. But they somehow filmed it in 30 days, which, gives Whiplash a run for its money there, and was made on a budget of $16 million. And it made, drumroll please, $17 million. So hey, they made $1 million. That's worth something. So despite all the financing controversies, the cease and desist, and all this other nonsense, the film got made and made money. So now on to the characters. Whiplash was never really a movie about jazz. Instead, it was about how ambition can be taken advantage of when in the wrong hands. From the very first scene, we see how Miles Teller's character, Andrew Neiman, is a hard worker who is reliant on the approval of Terrence Fletcher, played by J.K. Simmons. For Fletcher, seeing how desperate Neiman is for his approval is like finding a gold mine. He gives Neiman a sliver of recognition while also leaving him dangling. He knows that this will drive Neiman to do more for his approval, giving him the green light to unleash his abuse. In The Apprentice, we're introduced to a young Donald Trump, played by Sebastian Stan, as he works door to door in his father's apartment complex. He gets yelled at, belittled, and even attacked. When his dad gets sued for alleged discrimination and racism, the Trumps are in need of a lawyer. Enter Roy Cohn. Played by Jeremy Strong, this guy is described as the boogeyman of New York.
Okay, we're in business. You got a great name, Trump.
Well, man up on that wall one day.
When he first finds Trump, he, like Fletcher, sees a lot of potential. However, instead of looking for validation from Cohn, the relationship is a lot more of a partnership where one man has all the power. He sees Trump as a strategic connection that he can use in the future. He doesn't intend to be a mentor, but becomes one in the way that he transforms his apprentice. On the contrary, Fletcher embraces his role as a mentor and takes it beyond the limits of a normal human being. You can even see his power over Neiman in the film's cinematography, where Fletcher is always somewhat standing taller in the room, taking up more of the screen, sort of like a predator about to pounce on its prey. Cohn does this too. When he spots Trump in the club at the beginning of the film, he sees him from a mile away, almost like how a lion or a tiger would hunt a deer, or, well, they don't really eat deer, like a gazelle. Just go along with it. However, both of them would be useless as mentors if they didn't recognize one particular trait in their mentees that if they didn't have would render all of their methods useless. And that trait is called... Whiplash doesn't waste any time trying to tell you that Neiman wants to become the greatest drummer of all time, and will chase whatever he deems necessary for him to get that arbitrary goal. I don't think I need to explain Trump's ambition for you. We'll just skip over that one. I don't think we could be here for... This would be an hour-long video. I think two of the most important scenes in both movies are the dinner table scenes. This is our best chance to see both Neiman and Trump in an environment where they are directly faced with differing viewpoints and philosophies.
So how's the drumming going, Andy?
Yeah, it's going really well. I'm the new core drummer. So.
Tom Brady!
Did you hear it yet?
No, what happened?
Drive got named this year's MVP.
That's fantastic, Travis.
And Dustin is heading up Model UN, soon to be Rhodes Scholar, and who knows what all else.
Wow.
And Jim, Teacher of the Year.
Well, hey,
I
listen,
mean, come on, the talent at this table, that is stunning. And Andy, with your drumming.
Are you going to tell them about your game this week, huh? Living up to your title?
What
I scored a 93-yard touchdown.
School record, school record, school record.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's Division 3.
In Neiman's case, his family downplays his success through unintended ignorance while simultaneously praising his cousins for their more quote-unquote popular hobbies. The way they talk to his cousins in comparison to the way they talk to Neiman only gives him further social proof that his ambition needs to be higher in order to earn recognition. This scene highlights the contrasting worldviews of Neiman from the rest of his family. Neiman explicitly states that he'd rather have people that he will never see or know talk about him at a dinner table while he dies drunk, broke, and at 34 years old, all in the name of greatness. The Trumps are the complete polar opposite of the Neiman family. Fred, Donald Trump's dad, has complete control in the scene and pulls no punches in the way he talks. Conversation goes through him and through him only. When discussing whether to hire Roy Cohn to be their defense attorney, Fred immediately dismisses Trump. However, Fred Jr., Donald Trump's brother, chimes in arguing for the hire of Cohn.
Says the airline pilot. My firstborn son is a goddamn bus driver with wings.
Frederick, please.
Do you know what kind of an embarrassment that is for us? Whenever I'm asked about my family, I don't mention you, Freddie. That's how embarrassed I am about you.
Frederick, enough.
I don't know in what universe having a pilot in your family isn't a flex, but anyways, Trump seeing the disdain for what in his family is considered a bad job is what pushes his desire for recognition, not only from his father, but from others as well. Although Trump's dad does emulate some of Fletcher's qualities, he isn't the one ultimately morphing Trump into who he becomes, rendering him virtually powerless in the grand scheme of things. Both Neiman and Trump mold themselves based on how their families respond to success and failure. As both films go on, the transformation of the main characters becomes more and more evident. Neiman goes from being an innocent, hardworking kid to being a mini Fletcher when he starts literally wearing black just like Fletcher and becomes more vulgar in the way he talks. This is him abandoning the likeness of his father and becoming more like the man that he desperately wants the approval from. And for Trump, he adopts the rules of Cohn and literally steals them verbatim and makes them his own. Which brings me to my final point.
You want to know how to win? I'm going to let you in on a little secret. There's rules. Roy Cohn's 3 rules of winning.
I got 3 rules. Okay, they're my 3 rules of winning.
The first rule is the simplest. Attack, attack, attack.
Rule 1, the world is a mess. You have to fight back. You have to have a tough skin. Attack, attack, attack.
Rule 2, admit nothing, deny everything.
Rule 2, what is the truth in life? Deny everything, admit nothing.
Rule 3, this is the most important rule of all.
And third of all, and most important,
No matter how beaten you are, you claim victory and never admit defeat. Never admit defeat, Donald.
no matter how fucked you are, you never, ever, ever admit defeat. You always claim victory.
By the end of both Whiplash and The Apprentice, Neiman and Trump are vastly different from who they were at the beginning of both films. Although Neiman was always ambitious, he still had some sense of balance in his life. As Fletcher's abuse escalates, Neiman gradually sacrifices everything for his craft. His relationship, his health, his decency, and even his sense of self. All of this culminates in the final performance of the film, where Fletcher tries to humiliate him in front of a live crowd. In the brief moment where Neiman runs off stage, he embraces his dad, who represents the quote-unquote normal life. After a moment passes, Neiman must make a choice. Either follow his dad off of stage and resume his normal life of what he believes to be mediocrity, or walk back on stage and give Fletcher the ultimate middle finger.
Now we're going to slow it down a little bit. I'm guessing most of you folks have heard of it.
A casual audience might see the final scene as a moment of triumph. But all Neiman did by going up on stage and sabotaging Fletcher's band to his cue was give Fletcher exactly what he wanted. The life of the, quote, drunk, broke 34-year-old that he mentioned wanting to have at the dinner table is finally materializing. And Fletcher's smile in the last 5 seconds of the film only proved that his sadistic methods were justified, and he found the next great musician and created a monster in the process. Terrence Fletcher won. The same cannot be said for Roy Cohn.
Donald? Very much. Roy, long time no see.
Is this some kind of a goddamn joke?
What is it?
This is how you thank me? The manager at the Hyatt kicked Russell out.
All right, that's probably a mistake.
Oh, fuck you, Donald! Fuck you! Remember who taught you this stuff?
I'll call him, all right? I'll fix him.
You ungrateful, fucking, cocksucking nobody!
Where he once stood powerful, he seems like a side character by the end of the film. Where he used to dominate the frame in every room he was in, he now trails behind Trump, with the camera angle looking up at Trump, showing how he now has more power than Cohn, who continues to try and keep him grounded. For him, the monster he unleashed has now come to eat him. You just almost want to feel bad for Roy Cohn, just a little bit. The film's ending signals that Trump's transformation into a ruthless, morally corrupt figure is complete. Mirrored in the grotesque physical imagery with his fat being drained from his body and his scalp being partially removed, symbolizing the version of himself that he has become, Cohn taught him never to show weakness, never admit defeat, and always prioritize image. When Cohn is dying of AIDS at the end of the movie, Trump applies this exact logic to their friendship. What do you notice about this scene? As Trump knows he has AIDS, he deliberately avoids putting candles on the cake so that he doesn't blow them out. Cohn has become a liability, someone associated with scandal and illness, and Trump coldly distances himself from him rather than stand by him. Unlike Neiman, there is no need for approval from his mentor anymore because of his material success that he has seen. Once Cohn can no longer offer him anything, the connection has become disposable. It takes a certain type of person to be able to fall down this rabbit hole of ambition, but it also takes someone morally corrupt enough to be able to unleash it to its fullest potential. And that combination becomes very dangerous. For Whiplash, it's a cautionary tale about the pursuit of greatness. And for The Apprentice, well,